Ever since I started building my smart home, one of the key things that I figured out very quickly was that not everybody is tech friendly. I can probably teach my wife and my daughter probably about 40 to 50% on how to work this smart home. I probably have another 10 to 20% that's automated. I would love to have a 100% automated house, but that's just not possible these days. I would like to get into more, but it's a little frustrating when you have people in your house that are not tech friendly and they do things that mess up those automations. So I learned very quickly that you need physical controls in your smart home to help the people who are not tech friendly, the guests, and even sometimes even you when you don't want to use voice first activations or use your phone, and when the automations is not working, sometimes you just want to turn something off and just be done with it for the time being. I've been there, and going through the fights with the family and the arguments about your smart home is not worth it. So come up with physical controls, purchase them. A lot of these that we're going to be discussing today are pretty cheap, and I'm telling you they are totally worth it. So let's go ahead and jump into the video. Now obviously I don't have all these physical controls all set up right now. I did set up some with this light just for demonstration. In a minute or two we're going to go around the house to show you what I currently use, but I do want to show you some of the stuff that I've collected over the years and some stuff that just haven't found a place for yet. One of my first ones was the Eve Button. This thing was great in its day. It had to be close to your phone or a HomePod mini, something that was Bluetooth. Unfortunately, this is a Bluetooth device. Today is very slow. A lot of times it's not responsive and it's just outdated. Otherwise, this thing has been great. Battery life is pretty good. The only downside to this Eve switch is, or Eve button, is that it's Bluetooth, and it's just, you don't need that with Thread anymore. Come on, Thread all the way, baby. Now, most of these buttons and switches I'm going to be talking about today have 3 triggers. What that means is that a physical one press is one trigger, a double press is a second trigger, and a long press is a third trigger. And if you don't understand what trigger means, there's different terms for a lot of this stuff, so it's just the way that I've taught myself is a trigger is some type of action to tell your smart home to do something. So you have a trigger, and then you might have some conditions, and then you have an action. So the trigger is what starts it, condition has to be met, and then a action is what it's going to do. So now if you get into conditions with the Eve app or with the Home Plus 5 app, or brand new, I wouldn't say brand new, but in the last couple months, you can now do stuff with Siri shortcuts, and converting it to a shortcut is that you can have that one tap to control one light. So if it's on and you press it, it'll turn off. If you press it again, it'll turn back on. So that's one trigger that will control 2 actions depending on the condition of the actual light. So, or whatever you're controlling, you can do lights, you can start an automation, you can start a scene, but most of the time it's probably going to be 1 or 2 devices in your home. But you know, you can also do scenes and other automations. So, you know, sky's the limit there. So that's the basics of it. This is one of the first ones I had. I'm not quite sure if it's the very first, but it's an oldie but goodie, and it's been good to me. Another one that I bought, it's a little bit pricey. You can still get it today, and unfortunately it is Bluetooth also. Whenever I look at this, I think of it as a staple button. It's, you know, where you hit the staple button and be like, that was easy. So whenever I see this, it's more of a novelty because you leave this out, people press it, and you might do some funny automation in that room. The issue, once again, it's Bluetooth. It does have 3 triggers. Single press, double press, long press, and that's kind of pricey. I think this is like 60 or 70 bucks now. Even the Eve was a little bit pricey. I think the Eve is 40 or 45, and this is like 50 or 55 or 60 right now. So kind of crazy for old technology, but you know, I still had fun with them. So the Abode security system, the Iota. Let's quickly go downstairs to the keypad, which is now exposed to HomeKit. Here's a unique button on the Abode keypad. You have a triangle and a square. Both of these are exposed to HomeKit as a trigger. So I can press the triangle, and now those lights will be on. And now I can press the square and the lights will be off. It's pretty cool. You have those two triggers within the keypad. You will also have the motion sensor that's exposed to HomeKit, so it's a pretty cool device. Also from Abode, the key fob. You actually have one trigger in addition to arming your alarm, disarming, and your home mode. So the fourth button, if you hold down and do a long press, that will trigger one thing in your house that you want to automate. So it's pretty cool to have that on there. Maybe when you walk in the house, you want to disarm it and turn on a light. You can definitely do that. Really exposed to HomeKit natively, but two friends of mine, we did a video on the Aqara Cube. Shane Watley and Budget Home Automation showed us how to bring this into HomeKit. This is a pretty cool device. You can have, I think it was 5 or 6 different triggers depending on the actions of this device. So you can actually tilt it to 90 degrees, it would do one trigger. If you double tap it, it would do another trigger. If you slide it, a third trigger. And there was a couple more. So it's a very cool device, but unfortunately it's not native to HomeKit. You also need the Aqara hub to make this work. But if you did want to bring this into HomeKit, it's pretty cool. I would call this more of a novelty item and not really for your smart home on an everyday basis. All right, first one from Hue. This is the Hue Dimmer switch. It's actually can be removed from the wall switch, which I think is pretty cool. You can leave this out if you want to. You can mount it. It's totally up to you. Through Hue and the Hue bridge, which you have to purchase to bring this into HomeKit, you have 4 triggers here. Unfortunately, each button is only one trigger. It's not like some other devices where you have multiple presses where you can do a different trigger. So each button is only one trigger within HomeKit. They do have a newer version of this. It's not much different. They pretty much took the 2 set buttons and made it into one and called it a new switch, which I don't even know why. It's not even in the United States yet, or I can't find it. I think it's in Europe. A bunch of my friends have it in Europe, and it's the exact same thing. So pretty cool. I've used this a couple times around the house. Most of the time it's pretty good, but sometimes I do have a couple issues, like when I hit it. Actually, I think this is connected. Let's see if this works. That worked. See, I pressed it again, it didn't work. So it's not 100% reliable. Sometimes when you press the buttons too fast, it locks something up. Like I can probably switch to the other light. See, I can switch to the other light, but I probably can't do this one yet. See, that's what I'm talking about. And I can do the other light. Whoop, turn it off, there we go. And see, this light is locked up. Eventually this light will come back, but I have that issue with some of these Hue buttons and Friends of Hue. Talking about Friends of Hue, I got a couple Friends of Hue buttons or switches, 2 different designs. One's more of a EU design and one's more American. This one is called RunLessWires. The cool thing about both of these is there's no battery. That's right, so by pressing it, it makes the charge and communicates with the Hue bridge for you. So no battery ever needed, so there's nothing to replace. And what's also cool about both of these are currently in the double switch style, where there's 4 switches, 2 up and 2 down. But if you wanted one single switch, both of these you can turn into a single switch very, very easily. Fortunately, each button is one trigger, so in this 2 button setup, or in this 2 toggle setup, there's 4 buttons, 2 down and 2 up. So there's 4 different triggers here in this device. There's no double tapping or long pressing. It's only single pressing on both of these devices. For some reason, I don't love the design of the RunLessWire. I think it's kind of thick. It's not the prettiest thing. It kind of doesn't even look like a normal American switch, but it's close. I mean, it's the same shape, but it's just off for me. it just doesn't do it. So I actually like the EU switches. This is better design for me, even though it doesn't fit with everything in my house. I just like it much better. It's much thinner. I feel it's just a better design. This one's a little bit cheaper. I think this one's about $59, where this one's $69. The Senic also makes a outdoor version. So if you want to use one of these outdoors, there's a water resistant one. I think it's like $10 or $20 more. And both of these have multiple colors, so if you're looking for different colors, definitely check these out. So I think these are pretty cool. And talking about this design, I actually really like these from Aqara. There's the single rocker and this is the double rocker. What's really cool about these are Zigbee, of course. They work with the Aqara hub, but not only do you have this, the single, the double tap, the long tap, but if you had other Aqara products, you can actually do the double single tap and the double tap and the double long press. So there is, how many is that? That would be 12. I think 12 different triggers all in this device. 9 of them are native to HomeKit. The other 3 or 4 only are Aqara products. And of course, you can double that with conditions or series shortcuts. Like for instance, I can turn off the studio lights with one press and turn them back on with one press, or turn off the back with one press and turn it back on with one press. Maybe, there it goes. So, where you don't have to use up another trigger through conditions or series shortcuts. So, I can actually use this for a lot more, which I have stuff set up around the room. So I actually have this up on the wall right there. So it's easy to use as I walk in and out of the room. I don't have to worry about breaking up my phone or screaming out to Siri to turn off all these lights right here. I can just hit these switches on my way out. Talking about my way out, on almost every door of my house, I actually have NFC tags. I only set them up for my phone. I told my wife about them. She's just not into the NFC tags. I kind of think of those as buttons, but not really. They're really cool to have, and nobody knows about them but me. So as I'm walking out, I hit it with my phone, and it turns everything off in the room. All right, let's quickly walk around the house because I got some more to show you. Hey guys, so we're in my dining room right now. I know this is a weird angle looking outside the windows. I'm doing this for a certain reason. The only really smart home stuff that I have in here is the Brilliant switch, which I think is amazing. It's not extremely useful in HomeKit. Yes, you can control the wired switches in HomeKit, and any of the third parties that work with Brilliant that are native to HomeKit also, you can control also, but that's not through HomeKit. That's through the third-party integrations like Wemo, Ecobee, August locks. Those you can all control from the Brilliant controller, but unfortunately everything else in HomeKit you can't. But I still love it. The main reason is because it's a customizable screen. So even though it can't bring everything from HomeKit onto that screen, most of the things that I've set up, I don't want on the screen. I don't want my thermostat on that screen. I don't want my daughter or my guests to be able to control the HVAC. I don't want them to be able to control my bedroom lights from down here. So I'm very selective from what products I put in here, and if I want something to be controlled from this, then I can choose a third party on the other side that works with HomeKit and Brilliant. I do see Brilliant expanding those third party partners and integrating with more and more stuff in your smart home. It's not for everybody. If you're into HomeKit, it's probably not for you, not yet, unless you have those accessories that work with third party partners. But if you do, this thing is awesome. Now the reason I'm standing here in the dining room is because I do have 2 switches up here, 2 wireless switches. One is a Lutron switch. I'm actually going to be removing this. I do love the Pico remotes that I actually control with my Lutron outdoor plug, but I actually have a Flic button up here, and I'll show you why in just a second. Okay, so this Lutron switch goes to the outdoor plug. I'm going to press the button, it'll turn on the playground outside, and then I can press it off or turn off playground lights. And then the Flic is going to do the same things, but this has one button to turn on one button to turn off, and then if I press it twice, the outdoor lights turn on. Let me show you that again. So press it twice, the outdoor lights turn off. And if I hold it, the door light down there, it's probably hard to see. Trying to get a good angle. And there it's on, and now I can press it, hold it, and then we'll turn it off. Now the thing with the Flic buttons is that they are awesome. I love the size, I love the feel of them. There's a lot of great third-party triggers or automations that you can do with it in the integrations. But when it comes to HomeKit, you do have the 3 triggers, and through conditions or series shortcuts, that's what I used here, you can get double that and you can have 6. But it does have 2 downsides currently. One, now it does use Bluetooth 5.0, and if you want to use this with HomeKit, you have to also get the Flic hub. A pack of 3 Flic buttons, I think is like, with the hub is about, I think, $150, somewhere around there. It's pretty expensive for what it is. The great thing about these, I love the design, I love the feel, and I was a little concerned with the size of my house. It's about 6,000 square feet. Is if I put the hub upstairs in my studio, will I be able to use a Flic button on the other side of the house down in the basement? Well, guess what, guys? I have tested it. It works great. So even though it is Bluetooth 5.0, in my testing and in my environment, in my house, it works in a large house. So it's pretty cool, and I think it is worth the $150 if you're not already invested into other ecosystems like the Aqara system that works over Zigbee. So here in the basement stairwell, I'm going to mount this single Philips Hue button. The thing about the Philips Hue button, of course, you need the Philips Hue bridge, but there's only one trigger within this button for HomeKit. There's only one single press. There's no double press, there's no long press. It's just one press. And if the kid goes down there, turns stuff on, comes back up, forgets to turn off everything, I can just go right here and press the button and everything turns off. And we're going to mount this pretty high, only because I don't want kids to be able to reach this. In this part of the basement, I have like 4 or 5 HomeKit accessories, including the Lutron shades that I installed a couple weeks ago. So that's all tied into this Philips Hue button. So I'm going to turn off the lights and a couple other things. Some of you guys can see, some of you can't. So let's go ahead and give this a shot. Here we go. The light's turned off and the Serena shade is shutting. I really do like the Hue button. I think it's like 20 bucks. Unfortunately, you need the bridge. That's another 50 or 60 bucks. It only has one trigger within HomeKit. There's a lot of things that you can do within the Philips Hue app, and there's some other third-party apps that you can probably use this with and get a little bit more controls. Obviously, because there's one trigger, you can do conditions or use series shortcuts to get 2 if you wanted to. This is actually pretty much the same size as a Flic button as far as the diameter goes. Unfortunately, it is a little bit thicker than the Flic button, and the Flic button, it feels a little bit different in the hand, but even this doesn't feel bad at all. What's also nice is that you can change out the battery. I'm not quite sure how long it lasts. I think it was a year or 2 because it's a Zigbee product, so it lasts, I think, 2 years. I also like that there is a magnet built into here, so if you're using that plate that comes with it, you can mount it to the wall, but it also comes with a double-sided adhesive the same size as the back of this switch, so you can, or the button, so you can actually put that on here and then glue it onto the wall wherever you want it, just like a Flic button. Now I have another Flic button above where I had the Serena shades installed. I showed you this a couple weeks ago. This is actually a Pico remote that is extended off of the 2 gang physical switches. These are actually tied into the house. This one is not, and there's actually wall behind here. So it looks like a regular switch, but it is not. It's actually a Pico switch. This is a Flic button. All right, we're going to press this once. It's going to turn on the playground lights. Press it again. Turn off the playground lights. This turns on the outside light. Press it twice again, turns off the outside light. And now if I press it, you guys are probably not going to see this, but up there on the deck, there's a light. Standard Meross switches. These two are 3-ways. This is a single, it's a standard HomeKit switch. It works with Alexa, it works with Lady A, it works with HomeKit, it works with, what am I missing here? Oh, Google. So all 3 major players. Best thing about this is that they're super duper cheap. And there's a little light that lights up. And then here at the front door, I have an iDevices switch. This is pretty old. It's a Wi-Fi switch. I've never had any problems until about the last 6 months where it's losing connection. I'm not quite sure. I haven't isolated to Wi-Fi, but I have a feeling it's the device because I have another iDevice switch and I'm having the same problem where it's losing connection. I have a Wemo switch. This is a 3-way. What's really cool about the Wemo, I've done a video on this, is that you only need one for the entire circuit. So for both sides, you only need to replace one. And it works with a 4-way. So if you have 3 switches, one of the 3 ways in the 4-way circuit that has a neutral, and you're good to go. The other 2 can be dummy switches. If my daughter or one of her friends start flicking the dummy switches, this thing will overreact, it would have to reboot, and it just doesn't work properly when someone starts playing with it. That's the only downside to this Wemo switch. Alright, here in the living room, I have these Aqara switches. These things are really cool. There's actually 4 buttons on here. Each button can be 3 triggers. So you have a single press, a double press, and a long press on each 4 of these switches. I have 2 lights in here that I use every single day. So you can turn it off, you can turn it on. On the other side of the room, there's off and on. And then people don't really know about this because people who come in here want to use the light switch can use it normally, but if I double tap over here, it turns on the dining room light, and if I double tap, it will turn off the dining light. These are Zigbee, and a Aqara hub is required to use this. Not only does it work in HomeKit, but you can use it in Lady A, Google. Plus, these things are dirt cheap. Unfortunately, you can only get them on, I think it was Banggood or Alibaba. I'll leave a link down below, but you can pick these things up for maybe, I think, $15 to $18 each. There's 3 different models. There's the 2 button, which is 1 button up, 1 button down. This is the 4 button right here, which is 12 triggers. And then there's a 6 button switch that has 18 triggers all in there. It has magnets built in, so you can put this right on the wall just like that. You can mount it, take it off if you want to. The only downside to this is changing out the batteries. It's a little bit more difficult. You have to pop everything off. There's a screw inside. You got to pop off the thing on the inside. And then on the inside of the back of the device is the actual battery. So it's a little bit more difficult than some of the other ones, but definitely not too hard. And being a Zigbee device, you'll probably get about 2 years of battery life. So I have one there on this side of the living room, and then on the other side of the living room, I have another one right there, just for convenience. And then in the middle of the room is the Nanoleaf Remote. And this thing is awesome. I did a video on it. It's a very unique product. There is 12 different triggers in here. So this is more of a talking piece. It's pretty cool. It lights up, and depending on what side it's facing up, that is the trigger within HomeKit. It's pretty cool, but it's not something that most guests are going to use to turn on and turn off devices. There's just too many controls, too many triggers. It's cool to look at, it's cool to use and play with, but it's definitely not a everyday smart home thing. To work it, all you need to do is turn it to the side that you want, and you have to remember what each side means. So here, one side means all the lights are on. If we move it to number 2, go ahead, girls, move it to number 2. Okay. It's going to turn off the lights. Now, the colors we cannot control whatsoever. It is a Bluetooth device, so it is a little bit delayed. And then also with Bluetooth, even though I have a HomePod Mini right here in the room, there's still sometimes it doesn't work. So now if we move it to number 3, only one of the lights will turn on. And if we move it to number 4, that light would turn off and the other light will turn on. You gotta leave it to number 4. Just leave it alone. Alright, so shake it and put it back down to number 4, girls. There you go, number 4. There it goes. And the other light should turn on. There we go.
Bye, folks! Have a good day.
Yeah. Have a good day.
Hope you liked the video. Subscribe. He's probably gonna delete that part. Like the video.
I actually have a bunch of Lutron switches around the house. This is a dimmer, which I love because there's no neutral required. This is the fan control. Unfortunately, a neutral required is required with this, but both of these work with the Lutron hub or the Lutron bridge, and I've never had any issues with any Lutron product whatsoever. So kind of pricey, but definitely well worth it. Here in the master closet is the Eve switch. What's cool about this is that there is no moving parts. It has the, I think they call it the capacitive touch. So you hit it once, it's going to turn on the lights. Hit it again, it's going to turn off. So there's no actual moving part that you're actually physically moving. It's just touch, all by touch. This Eve product is also only Bluetooth, so you have to make sure that you have a HomePod Mini, or Apple TV within range to use this. I actually have this connected to an Eve contact sensor, so when the door opens, the light's going to turn on, and when it's shut, it's going to turn off. But I also have a timer on here for about 25 minutes. I used to do like 5 or 10 minutes, but then I realized that I want to stay married, and my wife doesn't like me turning off the lights after 10 minutes because she's in the closet for, 15, 20, 30, maybe an hour. And then this is the Aqara Switch. They have 4 different models. They're all one gang, but they have a single switch that has a neutral, required neutral, and then one that doesn't. And then they have this double switch, or 2 switch, all in one gang. One that requires a neutral and one that doesn't. The biggest difference between the neutral required and the non-neutral required is that it's a Zigbee repeater. Obviously, the Aqara hub is required to use this. It works with Lady A, Google, and obviously HomeKit. Now I have a double switch here. I have this top one that's actually wired into it and giving it power. This is for the main light. But this second one I actually capped off, but still has power, and this is actually still exposed to HomeKit. So this is kind of like a wireless switch that goes to a wireless plug on the nightstand. So I can press this and both nightstands are going to be turned on. And I have this glass that overlooks the living room downstairs, and on there I put this mini Aqara switch. It's very similar to the other Aqara switches. Press it once, light turns on. Press it again, it turns off. So there's 3 triggers within HomeKit for that Aqara switch. So those control the lights down here in the living room. So on and off, just like that. And what I love about this is that Zigbee has a 2-year battery life. The distance is great. Unfortunately, it does require the Aqara hub to work, but even that's pretty cheap. And these buttons, I think, are like $15 to $18 each. So if you got a place for these things, you can definitely throw them around the house at a very reasonable cost. And last but not least, and most unique to date, is the Nanoleaf Shapes. I think they also work with the canvases and the other ones, but I'm not quite sure. I only have the shapes. So you guys probably seen these in a lot of people's gaming videos. I love these things. These things are going to be in my background when I'm live streaming. But this is also a HomeKit controller, believe it or not. So each panel you can turn into a trigger for your HomeKit automation. All right, let me show you really quick. So I can press this once, track lighting will turn on, double tap, I have it programmed to turn off. And it's just like that. It's pretty cool. It's not the best thing in the world. It doesn't work flawlessly. Sometimes it doesn't register your hand, or it doesn't automate for some reason. So it's cool that you can touch it, it'll turn on a light or set a scene, but it's just more of that novelty item, but it's not something on an everyday basis that you're going to use. So yeah, I do have a lot of physical buttons and switches, but I have a lot of people in my family that are not tech savvy. I'm pretty much the only one who loves this stuff, and if I can't keep them happy, then I won't be happy. Quick story, I remember the first time my mom house sat and pet sat when I had a lot of smart home stuff, and that first couple days, I would get phone calls nonstop. This is not working, that's not working. And long story short, I came home and pretty much everything was unplugged. She just couldn't stand it. So, yeah. I said never again. So most of these are pretty cool. Some are novelty items, some are very unique, and I love showing that stuff off. And then some just are old and outdated. The Bluetooth stuff is just not up to par anymore. We really need some thread devices. I'll be right back. And talking about thread, look what just showed up. The brand new Wemo Stage. And even though this does not currently have thread, it does have thread chip built in. And the next, they said soon, whatever soon means, they're going to activate the thread. So this is the first thread wireless switch that I currently have. I don't think there's any other on the market. I saw this back at CES 2020. It took over a year to get it. So look forward to putting this to good use in my home. Unfortunately, there's only 6 triggers on here. There's 3 buttons and each one only has 2 for some reason. There's no double clicking trigger. Who knows why? So let's go ahead and see what this thing looks like. I find it weird they don't mention anything of thread on here. It's only Bluetooth Low Energy and battery powered. They said online that it's going to have thread support very, very soon. I hope it's not a different piece of hardware because I'll be very upset. NFC tag, so it comes right up and you can add it to HomeKit very, very easily. Alright, so what's cool about this is that it does pop off the wall mount. It's magnetic. It is battery operated and it uses a looks like a CR2032 battery. And what I also like about this is that you can actually pop out this back and put this into any other Aqara switch. So if you have a 2-gang, you can actually extend it out very similar like how I did with the Pico remote and add this to the wall, and you don't have to cut anything out. You just extend the Aqara switch to 1 extra gang, and then this just sits right there on the wall. It looks like it's built in, but it's really not. But I know I haven't even looked at a bunch of other physical controls. One of the most notable ones that I don't have is the Aqara switch, the little button. It's pretty cheap. You do need the Aqara hub. I forget the name of it, but even that is pretty cheap. And people are raving about it. So I was thinking about picking it up, but as you can tell, I have enough already. So my friend Josh, he has just recently done a video on his favorite buttons and switches, and he features the Aqara switch or button. So if you want to see that video and learn more about the Aqara switch, I'll leave a link right up there, so definitely check out his video. Let me know down below in the comments what stories you have about your non-techie family and guests destroying your smart home. Let me know down below. I appreciate all the love and support from these guys, the Patreon members. These guys are awesome. If you guys want to check out the next video in my HomeKit series, check that out right there, and I will see you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching. I'm out.
Nothing can break me.